I just wonder if you're having trouble.
Sure.
Oh, this is going to work so much better because now you've got audio. Hello, my name's Tony Evans. I'm a teacher librarian at Lakeside High School in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And this is my first time at ISTE in 8 years. The last time I attended ISTE was in 2009 when it was still NIC. And over here to my right is Sherry Gig.
Hi guys, this is my 5th ISTE. So my first ISTE was here in San Antonio, and so back for the 5th year. That's interesting. This is your first one since we switched over.
First one, and I had forgotten just how big these events are. You know, you get so used to doing your state conferences, and you can typically make 5 or 6 sessions a day, but there's no way you can make that many sessions at ISTE because just the size of the conference center alone is mind-boggling. And 20,000 people.
I was going to say it's just us and 20,000 of our closest friends doing different things. So yes.
Absolutely. And Jonathan, okay, so far today I got up, made it to breakfast, and then things began at they have poster sessions at ISTE that you can just walk around and hear people talking about they're like mini presentations. And they actually have students downstairs, and I'll show you a picture of just how many people attend these poster sessions. This was just a few moments ago. Look at all these people. I'll put this up so you can see that there are just a few people attending the poster sessions. There's a lot there, aren't there? It's amazing. And I went to a Future Ready session this morning.
Poster sessions are so much fun because you can get, as he was saying, it's hard to fit in a lot of sessions during the day, but poster sessions allow you to get kind of bite-sized pieces of learning. I like poster sessions and the playgrounds because you really get to walk around and choose your learning, and a lot of times you get into a session and it may not be what you wanted it to be, or it's something you're already familiar with. And even though they say it's okay to get up and leave, you still feel badly. But that's encouraged with playgrounds and posters. You're supposed to go around and talk and work with as many people as possible to learn from.
Well, and also those big, I guess, the spaces that they have for the individual sessions, those poster sessions are really well placed because as you're walking across trying to find the next place that you want to go, you can get pulled into those poster sessions and stay for a long time. So I enjoyed myself there. But then went upstairs to a librarian's playground, and you were presenting.
I didn't mean to present, but we had a lot going on in the playground this morning. I got to help out with the Chibitronics demo that Heather Lister was doing. It's one of my favorite things, LED stickers. So instead of our LED lights like we have, you know, the nice flat ones, we were teaching people just to make circuits and how to use those with paper projects.
I've been seeing lots of folks that were there because everybody that made one, I guess they got to keep them.
Yes, we did some bling your badge, right?
So I got to do that this morning, and Jonathan was there.
I did. I got to talk about a project I'm doing with my students around developing empathy, and we have a donation for a makerspace of several Ali and Sphero robots, and so we talked about how we have a student coming into 5th grade next year into our middle school who's in a wheelchair, and what it's like to access our building if you're in a wheelchair. Even though we're ADA compliant by the law, it is still a really difficult building to navigate in. Because it's Maine and we have more space and we know what to do with, our building is a huge U and has a beautiful courtyard in the middle, but one end and the other is almost a half a mile apart, even though they're physically on the ground fairly close together. And so what we've ended up doing is calling attention to the district about how far apart these are from one another and how challenging it is for a student or a teacher in a wheelchair. And, we have a French teacher who's currently working in the 8th grade and the kindergarten, and it would take her 14 minutes to make that loop using the elevators and the ramps. She's not in a wheelchair, but if she were, it would be virtually, in fact, probably literally impossible for her to do her job. And then we had a speaker come in and talk about his experience. He has MS and he's married to one of our guidance counselors, and I knew what a fantastic speaker he was. So kind of building up to that opportunity, but really making sure that the library is more than just a space where we have purely, books and quiet learning. We can turn around here for a moment. The hashtag for the conference for its libraries is can't shush this. And we've been talking about if you are shushing in your library, you're really doing the opposite of all the kind of 21st century connecting and learning that we want to be doing. So the playground was a great example of that. It was noisy, it was vibrant, and so many different things happening, so different from one another. We had vendors talking about their specific products. We had librarians talking about their work. So over the course of the next few hours, people will tweet out what they've been doing there. But if you continue to follow at ISTLib, hashtag ISTLIB, or hashtag can't shush this. Those are the ones we've been using to talk about our work, and it's been such a great opportunity to share our ideas, but also then we just finished an hour-long conversation with people at a meetup that so many great questions about digital collections and blurring your lines between digital and print. How do you think about reimagining your space? And there was nothing like, you may have said this before, and I was testing this out, but meeting these people face to face. And Stoney and I have had dozens of conversations online and talked to one another, but never met until 20 minutes ago. Sherry and I, when we first met, she knew who I was, I didn't know who she was. We had this terribly awkward moment where she was like, okay, loser man, say hello, and I figured it out. But those connections you finally make face to face are invaluable, and then you take those connections back home. And one woman was saying that she's the only librarian anywhere near her who has this sensibility about being future ready and kind of rethinking her work, and recognize that. And within Twitter, she had this incredible network, but her own day-to-day operations and work felt really isolated. So she was delighted to find those connections.
So, Stoney, what are you looking forward to as far as, like, we're kind of, we say we're wrapping up today, but we're really not. But as far as session-wise, do you have some things planned as far as?
I want to go to everything that I possibly can because I got a makerspace, and we've had a makerspace established for a couple of years. But a lot of our teachers and even librarians in my state look at that as it's a playground. You know, that's playtime. I want to come back with some ideas, and I got some of those ideas when I walked through Playground this morning. Some great examples of using a makey and pieces of quilt. You know, for instance, if students had, and you may have heard the gentleman right next to your table, he was presenting this. I can't remember his name, but if students were doing a research project, and quilting could be a part of that. You know, they could either Thomas Jefferson. From that era, have some symbols from his life, if that was being studied, and then attach a makey to that, so that when students touch different places on each piece of quilt, it can go to
see something about
yes,
it, right?
maybe even things that the students had created. And I want to show I want to take these kinds of ideas back to our teachers that will take those risks with us, and let the library be a place that we can empower students that will enjoy doing those kinds of things. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing, traditional research and papers, but we can do this as an additional way to empower our students in their voices and their creativity.
Exactly, another way to show their learning, right?
Yes.
In an alternative way, a non-traditional way of showing their learning.
Yes.
And I like the point that you made as far as taking the information back to teachers, and we do seem to fight that battle a lot. That people are like, I even saw this discussion on Future Ready Librarians Facebook group the other day that they were talking about, do I really need a makerspace? It seems like it's just a place for kids to play with Legos.
Yeah, and or they think it's a trend. Is this going to go away?
Right.
Innovation's not going away.
Hands-on learning is not going away. As far as it's actually I feel like we're cycling back, right? We're going back to the fact that we really want kids to be hands-on and involved. And there's so much the critical thinking that you're talking about that's involved in some of these projects is much more than paper and pencil and depth of knowledge level 1. Like, we're really kind of taking it up there. Like, problem solving. We're raising creative thinkers. We don't want to raise test takers.
Well, and it's an opportunity too, I think. Yes, we could work with history, maybe even an ELA class. But what about science? Could we talk about the science of creating these circuits with makey and so many possibilities? We've got a broadcasting class. Could we not also work with the broadcasting class to create the videos after they do the research on? We can just layer this thing
Exactly.
and make it.
Keep scaffolding it and everything working together.
And all it would take is a few teachers to come on this journey with us. And when others see it, well, then after these things happen, I keep hearing we have to tell our stories. You know, we have to write blog posts. We have to post on social media, Instagram, whatever you're comfortable doing. But then that lets those teachers see, and your administrators, and maybe even the school across town, see what you're doing. Other teachers are going to want to come forward. So I think that's a recurring theme that I keep seeing. So those are things that I'm looking for. I want to make those things relevant.
And that's one of the things that we always talk about as far as like, we just had this discussion earlier actually. When we're sharing things, we need to remember everybody's point A and point B looks a little bit different. And so some of the projects I see Stony doing, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that would be transferable to my library. Like maybe it's a little far above. I was always really intimidated when I'd see like what Colleen was doing with her makerspaces. I'm like, oh, that makes me nervous. I need something a little bit lower because my starting point was different. But you never know when you're sharing. Like we keep hearing that over and over again at the conference as we meet people face to face. They'll say, hey, I saw you share that on Twitter and this is what I did with it. And so again, we're all about kind of remixing it and making it work, not being intimidated as far as like, you can always learn something from what someone is sharing. So just being able to translate that.
It's what we were talking about. We did a big renovation at our library, but the sense of the savings that we had, just dollars, if you want to take to the administration, to give you the opportunity to go to these conferences and to visit peers. What we did not do wrong as a result of seeing what other people had done right is literally tens of thousands of dollars in savings. And why? I mean, I always give the example of Hamlet. There's this play called Hamlet, and you might be teaching it, but you're probably not the first person to teach it. Would you ever go and pretend like no one else had ever taught it before? Of course not. You would go and look, right? Or I've mentioned the idea of YouTube. When you're going to learn to do X, you're not going to just guess, right? You go to YouTube and find an expert. That's how my kids learn how to do everything, and I increasingly. So we're kind of Twitter and these conferences, the YouTube of librarianship, where you have this opportunity to stand on someone else's shoulders and gain from them. And you mentioned telling your story. I think I am the outlier in many cases in terms of my willingness to share and personality. But if you're not, in a very introverted kind of, Diana Rendina and I were talking about this, that Diana's not super comfortable presenting and being in that big forum, but she's a wonderful writer. And so her blog is this incredibly transparent, and she writes tons, and you get this incredible access to her mind and her ideas. And my makerspace is based entirely on her work and that of Laura Fleming in New Jersey, that I would have started from like, I don't know what, disaster land. And not that I'm imperfect, I mean, talk about a learning curve, but the two of them have been so open and so generous. You said earlier, I've never met virtually or in person a librarian who's like, yeah, no, don't have time for it. I mean, they make time and they'll figure out ways to help you out. And before I had my master's, I really, you said too, I was on the ground before I was actually knowing what I was doing. And thank God I have an amazing mentor that I was working with. But my district merged, I'm gesturing off screen, over here, librarianship and information literacy into a single position. And so I'm a library and instructional technology specialist. And it's definitely a mouthful, but Sherry was saying in terms of staying vibrant and relevant in your profession and making sure that you are not part of that riff group, you need to demonstrate your multifaceted skills. And, the Future Ready campaign that has been the focus of our year and a lot of the work we're doing here really looks at ways that you make sure that you're meeting a lot of different needs. And for me, the ones that have been really important, I have incredible network hardware people that I don't need to replicate that work. But in terms of being accessible, I very intentionally make sure that people feel that I can meet their need at their level of tech skill. So I will often play dumb. I'm like, let's look that up online together and look it up. But I want to make sure that if I'm nothing else, I am never condescending and never making someone feel uncomfortable or like what I'm offering them is out of their reach. So I do, in many cases, differentiation for adults. But so many of the ideas about what I have is by seeing what other people are and knowing that I have a tendency to kind of go into my zone and really go much faster than people are comfortable, watching other people's levels of comfort and adjusting myself just like I would to a younger reader or to a kid who's struggling with math. I don't want them to feel stupid. And so that access to really the broader range and areas where I have no idea, where I am really the juvenile, the neophyte. It's so wonderful to have the community of people who are willing to meet me at whatever level that is. It's a really powerful message to people about, and you said before, like, we're the best example of sharing each other, but so many of us are not willing to put ourselves out there. And so I think in a very low risk way, Twitter or the face-to-face meetings lets you do that, and then that can blossom. I mean, I think Diana never would have guessed that she would have been SD's primary educator for the year, but no one would deserve it. Such a fantastic role model for us, but not someone that was going to be like, hey, I'm fabulous, here's my story.
Right, and just knowing that no matter what it is that you're doing, someone can grow from that, and so sharing, and we tend to have this feeling like, well, this isn't really important, this program that I'm doing, or nobody's really going to care, but yet you share, and then you find out later, oh, that they were blessed by that, they were able to use a piece of that, or maybe the whole entire thing, and so.
Well, I'm going to put Sherry in the spot here. Can you talk a little bit about the way you did your reading contest, and I can't remember the name of it now, where the kids, the books are coming up against each other, Battle of the Books. So this is a great example. I'd never heard of Battle of the Books before. So Sherry did this great conversation about it, and I learned about it, and I talked about, I still haven't done it because I can't remember what it's called, but I said, you should check out Sherry for Battle of the Books. And so my friend calls me the Yenta. I'm like, oh my God, you have to meet you and talk about Battle of the Books. So if you could just take a second to describe it.
Our Battle of the Books program, I mean, like many schools run Battle of the Books programs. It's probably even a national program, and I'm not actually using that, so it's probably copyrighted. Our Battle of the Books program was not original to us. Actually, I need to give credit as far as it's something that had been going on in the county next to us with Carroll County Schools and Delphi Schools, and they were kind enough to model and help us get started 8 years ago. And basically, we have teams of, we pick 10 books that are secret, and we do a big reveal to a student body, basically, who've already come up with teams. They can have up to 10 people on their team, and then they get those 10 books, and they have about 3 months just to read however they want to. There are no governance as far as not every kid has to read every book. I mean, especially with high school students, let them figure it out. I always say, a suggestion is that a team of 10 kids, and you have 10 books, well, if I were you, I'd want one other person. I wouldn't want to be the sole bearer of this one book. I would like Stoney to read it too, so that if I'm not quite sure, we can go, I think it's this, because you have the chance to actually confer with someone when the questions come up. So we run this battle. It's like 150 questions, and they sit in their teams, and they have 20 seconds to answer it on paper, and they can talk to each other about it. And it's just when the answer comes up, they show it to the monitor, and they either get it right or don't get it right. We started at the high school. We have it at the middle school. We got some grants and funded it out through the county. So now we run it through several of our county schools. And I just had a colleague who came on board the second year contact me this week, and she said, have you ever thought about doing it at the elementary level? She said, because I haven't, but I've had a teacher ask me about that. And so we started kind of brainstorming what that might look like, because we've kept it for middle schoolers. They still do 10 books. They can still have 10 people on their team. And so we said, maybe for 5th and 6th graders, choose 5 books. And maybe they can have 6 to 8 people on their team. And so, but still kind of growing them to get ready for that, because still, I don't know if that answers your questions about it, but
I mean, I think you think about all the areas where this can happen. Like, my school is a huge robotics school. I mean, like, ridiculous, off the chain, national level, international robotics. And so, but I never thought about the beautiful marriage between robotics and the makerspace. So we now have robotics kids teaching robotics to other kids and making the robotics kids really cool, where, forgive me, robotics kids are not always necessarily going to be at the top of the social chain. So that's the kind of thing that it never occurred to me to see that marriage, but I saw it somewhere else, and I thought, wow, that's a really powerful opportunity. And like you said, you put your program out there and you don't realize necessarily what it is. Like, that other people are going to see the gold in it.
You undervalue what you're doing. Yes. I think we tend to do that. We downplay things that we're doing.
And then you start to reflect on it. And, you write about it, or you talk about it in a panel. Like, when we first did our renovation, all I thought was, oh my gosh, I never could have done this without anyone else. All the people we relied on. And now the dozens of people that have come to visit us, my kids' own school came to visit our makerspace and our library, and is basing their new elementary library that they're building on principles that we sort of developed. And so this sort of on the shoulders, and the continuous refinement. But until I got up in front of those groups and started talking about it, I didn't realize what commonalities they were and what I'd been talking about actually did kind of coalesce. And at the end of our process, David Lorcher, who kind of developed and invented the idea of the Learning Commons, was a keynote speaker at our main state school library conference, and he chose asked to do the keynote in our library. And it was like the ultimate win, like, holy cow, David Lorcher wants to do this here. And that external validation, it isn't me that's getting validated, it's my kids in my program that are getting that. And I am thrilled they're getting celebrated. I'm getting that external recognition. But for myself now, I can confidently sort of speak about how I've refined my sensibility of it and feel like I can share that. But I never would have if I didn't have that next group of people asking me the questions. So I think one of the things that happens at these conferences is you're listening to someone's ideas and their experience. So Michelle Ludolov is here on Sunday, and they're talking about, she and Jackie Whiting are talking about how texting to the library has transformed their work. Because introverts will text questions that they won't ask out loud. And so I thought, my God, how do you do that? Well, they set up a Google Voice account. And if you go New Canaan High School Library in Connecticut, Michelle Ludolov is Luhtala, and Jackie Whiting is Ms. J. Whiting, Whiting on Twitter. The two of them have provided this incredible resource through their website. And then they have a separate website that's set up for support. And so one or the other of them is pretty much always on call. They were worried that it was going to go 24/7, but they've discovered that they can pretty much cut it off around 9 p.m., even though they're high school, and not start till the next morning. They said between Christmas and February break, there's almost no user utilization, so they get breaks. They trade off, and Michelle, I think, said, I was at a football game and I couldn't possibly have answered anyone's questions, and yet Jackie was there and able to do it. But when you go to their website, their Twitter account is in the middle, and then their phone number is on top. You text to the Google Voice account, both of their accounts, both of their phones ping, and then whoever can answer it can answer it. But what they find is the kids who want their questions heard will show up face-to-face or email. But these kids who are effectively anonymous, as they then have the face-to-face conversations later on, they realize they're kids they never would have reached. That is a game changer for me. I'm constantly trying to think about how, I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, so how do I make my program accessible to someone who finds me overwhelming? Well, we've done self-checkout, we do really clear signage, and I've had kids say to me, I really appreciate that I can navigate the whole collection in isolation. And never talk to you, Ms. Warner, because you're a piece of work. Yes, a huge piece of compliment. And so I feel like that I'm aware of that. I knew it in my classroom. I wanted to think about ways that I could do digital participation, but that idea sort of disappeared when I left English teaching, and now is reemerging because Michelle said, hey, what do you think about this? And so I think the conferences give you, you get so much and we all file it away, but I work with One-to-One Tech Chat Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time during the school. And we finish every week with, a little plug, we finish every week with last word, #last word. And the question is not, tell me everything you've learned, but tell me one thing you've learned that you can transform your teaching tomorrow. So what Twitter provides me with is this reference list of all the things I've been experiencing as I go along. And then I pick one or two at a time and I employ those. And I go to 2 big conferences a year. I go to this one and I go to one in November in Boston. And that has allowed me to kind of every 6 months recharge, refresh, once to go into September and once to go into January with some new material, but also with the sense that I'm not on my own. And I have this opportunity not just to gain knowledge from these people, but then interact and ask questions. And that, I think so often we forget that teachers are learners, right? And so this context for me has been professional development, where we lecture to teachers. Do we ever, I actually was being lectured at about not lecturing. And it occurred to me, I started laughing hilariously. People were like, okay, crazy boy in the corner over there. But I realized I was being lectured at about not lecturing and differentiating. So it is like the ultimate kind of, you had said earlier, you don't necessarily vote with your feet and walk out of a session, but if you're willing to take that ownership and just pick the things from the session that do work for you, it's been really transformative to me to go away with this dossier of good ideas, and then I mine it over the course of the next 6 months and use Twitter to kind of keep it alive, and especially then to answer the follow-up questions. Because you think you figured it out, but you get to a roadblock, your PLN is there to come back around and answer it, and it's that person you met. Hey, Stoney, I'm Jonathan, remember, and then I have this question. It brings it to life in a way that I don't think anything can replace, but it doesn't just end when you walk away.
I always get overwhelmed at these things because
Would you say
they're just so
post-traumatic?
Yeah, I go home and I'm like, gosh, what can I possibly take back? And what I've learned to do over the last several years is just try to take three big things.
Yes.
Three big things, and not forget the rest. You know, I keep those notes and I refer to them to the first year. But I just try to take three big things back, and I try to find those teachers or the opportunities that I can implement them. So I think one of those big three things is going to be that Makey project that we're talking about.
It's really exciting.
We keep talking about customer service. Really, when the things that we've been reflecting on, it's about customer service and trying to think like business people.
Yeah.
Like, with the students and the teachers being our customers and being sensitive to their needs. And I love what you had said about going and visiting the different libraries, and that helped you cut down the things that you were doing wrong.
And it's expensive to send me somewhere for now. I know that, but in the cost-benefit analysis, it is cheap as dirt. Because I learned, I went to the learning commons at Concord Carlisle High School, and she said to me, "It is too big." I learned, I asked for more than I needed. I walked 4 miles a day through this space. So she was in the process of redesigning, and she was carving her space almost a third, down to a third, and reducing her print collection on the theory that she wanted only accurate nonfiction and a manageable space. And so for her to say that, I had been lamenting that I didn't have more square footage, and her conversation really made me embrace it. And I saved all this money by not knocking down walls and trying to get bigger. What I did was get flexible, and everything that can move now can accommodate almost every need we have without becoming unmanageably large. And having eliminated, I said earlier, the nookie corner, 8th graders who would hide behind the tall shelves. Without that, I'm less desirable to be hot and heavy, but I'm also much more accessible and appropriate. And I have this very manageable square footage that holds everything because it doesn't have to hold it all at once. Her space was trying to hold it all simultaneously.
And I know you just went through this as far as with your brand new library space. Jonathan did as far as you did a good job kind of surveying students, because you're talking about visiting, but again, when you're creating and doing things, you need to be doing things for your community and your students. And so can you talk about maybe some of the ways that you use that kind of student voice to make changes and updates so that when your new library was unveiled, you knew that it was really kind of student ready, right? Student friendly.
And of course, it's a journey.
Sure, right. We're always evolving.
We look at things that I'm sure we could have done better. We took 2 old spaces. One section of the library was actually office space, and they gutted it, and we repurposed it, put a stage in it, in a cafe theme, and we actually showed pictures to kids for months. We said, "This is the trend that we are seeing."
Right. What do you
and
think?
what do you think? And we had plans drawn up, and I would show it to students at lunch when we had big lunch crowds before school, just to get feedback. And there's probably a lot of other better ways that we could have done it, but at the time we thought that, we're giving the kids a voice here. And of course they love the stage, they love the cafe, and that's where they would be now. But even at the end of this year, because we just finished our second year in the facility, we asked kids anonymously on a Google form, tell us what's working in here, tell us what we can do better. And
There's probably some things that you hadn't realized that maybe weren't working because they hadn't voiced it to you.
yes, and we sent it out to the entire population, kids that don't always come. And anytime I do something like that, I'm like, okay, now what's
coming back in my anonymous Google form can be scary.
It was surprising. They told us they loved the space. They told us we were welcoming to them, and I mean some really great stuff from grades 8 through 12. I mean, even seniors participated in this. But then at the end, I think there were 6 students that specifically asked for quiet zones. which we've always had. We just haven't. I love for you to talk about signage. We had signs, but we very rarely had kids ask for quiet zones, especially during the high traffic times.
They want to be able to find them, I guess,
Yes,
right? Not have to ask.
and we actually thought of some ways that we could enhance them after getting that feedback. You know, we got together and looked at the information, and we began to think about how can we make this more than just a quiet space. So what we were looking at doing next year is have better signage to start with, but also we want to have an iPad or something available at the front desk with signage. Sign up, reserve your quiet time. We want to have a space for group use for kids that need to study, because that was one of the their requests, specific requests. And then we want to have individual spaces for those kids that need it. We don't think it's going to be utilized a lot, because we're talking 6 kids out of 1,300 ask for this, but that's still an important population. I mean, they're our customers. We want to serve them. So we're thinking to make it more elite, we're going to have a place in the front where they have to sign up. And it's more than just a space. It's a place that all the kids go if they make a reservation. Yeah, and I think that might make it more attractive to those kids. So, but I can't wait to see this happen, because those kids are going to see that, and they'll feel like they had input.
Yes, so that's the thing. I was stunned by. We did 2 things that my colleague Amanda Kazaka suggested. One was a font contest and one was a logo contest. And it sounds ridiculous and sort of piddling, but those kids walking in, I chose Happy Monkey. I hate Happy Monkey. It's the ugliest font in the world. But the kids chose it overwhelmingly. They come in and they're like, oh, it's Happy Monkey. They chose Happy Monkey. So they feel that reflection. The girl who won the logo contest, brilliant artist, does not say a peep, like does not speak. But every time she sees that logo and all of her stuff, and then by the door, she's beaming. And that's her space, and she feels that too. And then we did a whiteboard. How are we doing? What are your ideas? And a math teacher came in and was like, you know, can I have my kids do a mock-up? These kids, 5th graders, measured the existing space within 1 foot. It's a gigantic, I mean, thousands of square feet. Within 1 foot of accuracy, did scale models of all of the furniture, and then we put it in the middle of the library, and kids moved it around, we photographed it, and they saw what they had, not only what they envisioned, but their work brought to life. And we had these huge signs, a 5th grade project. It didn't take a minute of our time, but and it wasn't big in the sense of transformative of everything we were doing, but for them, it was huge. And you don't realize as a kid, I forget how often I felt like no one gave a clue what I was saying. And when you're a librarian in your library say, I care what you're doing, this is yours. There was a woman here earlier, I'm pointing to where she was sitting, who said when she did her renovation, she had the embarrassing situation that she had to push people away because they were so excited about the beautiful space. This is the short name. This beautiful space that the parents and the adults were like, oh, we have to be in here. And she had to say, no, the kids have to be in here. We are not shutting down for your meeting. And so keeping your eye on that you said, you know, to your population, but also with the recognition that you can't possibly know. My kid's school, Wainfleet, the director said when he redesigned his prior school, he realized he was designing a building for 100 years, which would be irrelevant in a year if it didn't allow itself to grow. And that was so powerful. It's like, I had all these people giving me pushback about transforming, and I'm saying to them, look at our old building. I can't move the walls, I can't do anything. The reason you want a transformation is you want that to go away, and now you're telling me I can't be flexible. So once he got them on board, he was able to make the investment in the movable furniture. They have these kind of like, I'm going to say not mobile, but interchangeable pieces that allow you to divide and reorganize spaces. And they're like big sound walls, basically. So kind of like cubicles in an office, but more robust than that. And so it's not instant, but over the course of, you know, like a school vacation, you can reorganize a space. So that really stuck with me that I couldn't possibly know. The only thing I could know is that I would need more and more Wi-Fi robustness. So if you're looking at a redesign, plugs and Wi-Fi, until you can't do anymore, there's never enough of those. But otherwise, you know, as your collection becomes more digital, as your makerspace moves in, really the only thing you can plan for is what you can't imagine. And so that that you know that once you've done a redesign and once you've done some rethinking about your purpose, you want to also hold open that door for continued flexibility and dialogue. And when the people want to come in, we just now piloted a 6th grade research project on ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and they wanted to do Night at the Museum. So they brought in parents and they brought in kids, and each research project ended with an exhibit. And then they visited my own children's school that does it as an overnight, and they were hilarious. They're like, no, we are not ready for an overnight right now. But the evening event allowed each kid to feel ownership of what they presented and to really be a part of it. And we could totally redo the space so it felt to them like galleries in a museum. And we had the Greek and Roman architecture, we had the arts and education sections. And as they did that traveling, they felt like the space had transformed to meet their needs. And the parents were dazzled. They were like, this is so cool that we can do this. And the next morning we opened for business again with our old configuration, our normal configuration. And as I said today, some multitude, this buff physique comes from moving books every day. But I would do that 100 times a day if it meant people felt not only at home, but welcomed into the space to do whatever it is that they're there to do.
Yeah, just imagine what those kids went home and told their parents. Well, and a lot of their parents came.
I mean, no better voice or advocacy than your kids went home. I will say too, we also got the idea from another school. We go on an annual basis to the school board, and we're like, this year in library and instructional technology, and we show them some of the major projects with the idea that we want kind of transparency of that. And my colleague at the high school is an amazing librarian, but she is the last person to toot her own horn. And so she's up in front of the school committee, and she's really having a tough time articulating. And this unbelievable girl, who's a student representative on the school committee, is a senior. She goes, Ms. Young, I'm really sorry. Can I interrupt you? Yeah. Like, I want you to know that I could not have graduated high school without your help.
Wow.
And we're all like, and see. Like, there is no better message than this young woman. And she gave her a big hug. And I think you have those. It's so hard to stand up and say, like, this is what I'm doing. But I have yet to have a situation where it hasn't rewarded me in spades. And it isn't about you. Again, it's about putting the kids and the students and the learning and the teachers front and center. And the word I learned from a colleague of mine, Beth Holland, is afford. And she doesn't mean like pay for, but she means like afford an opportunity. Your space should afford opportunities for digital learning, for making, for whatever it needs to be in that moment. That's my kind of keyword as I think about what I want my library to be and my own work. I want affording opportunities for meaningful research, accurate sources, good digital citizenship, and anything I'm doing that's in that direction, even if it's imperfect, is better than not getting. My district had a very sort of like, social media, not my responsibility. Apparently I inherited. And I said to them, let's think about this in the concept of literacy. If I had a kid that didn't read particularly well, can you imagine a district being like, good luck with that, I hope you learn to read? So transfer that to social media. I now have a course called My Digital Self, and I teach 5th and 6th graders about digital citizenship and I use the amazing curriculum from Common Sense Media, and I show them very intentionally that they're creating a digital tattoo at a very early age, and they have this opportunity to invent themselves online. And taking full advantage of that is the difference between college admission and not, job security and not, and that we cannot give them the opportunity to make those mistakes on their own without some feedback and some leadership. And so out of recognizing that need, I've gotten a course. It happens in my space, but it was affording the opportunity for the kids to do that kind of critical learning within my 4 walls. And something we did not anticipate. I mean, it wasn't like I set out to be a digital literacy teacher, but as we started having this conversation, I felt like it was something I couldn't not do. And at the same time, my colleague was realizing that we were having plagiarism of the yin-yang, not because kids were trying to, but because they didn't understand that importance. So she teaches 7th and 8th graders about information literacy and about appropriate citations and things. And the 9th grade teachers have already, this is the 2nd year, said those incoming freshmen have such a better sensibility than we've had in the past, and we've saved so much time. So now we have high school teachers advocating for our program and saying, you guys are really doing great work, thank you. And then parents who come back again, they come to the Common Sense Media nights, and they're like, I'm so delighted to be talking with other parents and learn their struggles about this. I have my own 3 kids, of course, I don't have it all figured out. And being willing to say that and just have those dialogues our space also affords us opportunities for the evening events, and it has made it a kind of community center feel that I didn't anticipate. I really thought we would be serving 7 to 3 each day, but what we end up doing is serving as almost like a physical locus for the sensibility of modern librarianship, and that has really been a transformative piece of my perception, but again, not one I would have had if I hadn't seen it in action in other places.
There's a quote that I just wanted to share from this morning in a session I was in on Future Ready, and it was, "The library is a service, not a place."
That's beautiful.
I really like that. And I don't remember which one of the panelists said it. I wish I could have tagged her in that quote. I really love that. And that's when you started talking about your plate and the girl sharing and she not wanting to tutor her. Yeah. Right. The library is a service, not a place.
Awesome. But to that end, like very practical things. I didn't know that. I'll show this. Follett Destiny has this app. Follett, thank you. You rock. So Destiny is on a mobile app, and I will take a cart of books. I also have a low battery. Thank you, Apple. So I will go to our classroom that's doing independent reading, and I will book talk, 10 books, and take 3, 4, 5 copies of those books, and they check out in the room. Now, I have 25 books in the hands of 25 kids, whereas if they had to come to me, certainly independently, I would have gotten very few of them. And even if they had all come, they would have gotten out without checking out books. And now I can assure that at least the book is in the kid's hand. The teacher knows that too. And the teacher also knows that there's no travel time. That if I come to them, they're not losing class time for me to book talk, but they're gaining more checkouts and more experiences with the books. So I think one of the things I always think of is, how do I make it so that I am value added for that teacher? Co-teaching, taking load off. My colleague and I have now started grading, which I've not done in a while, but this pilot program with the Roman Greek presentations, the teacher said, "I'm really uncomfortable with adding this additional level toward the end of the year. Would you do it?" And Amanda and I were like, "Yeah." So we did the rubric, we taught the skills in our class, and then we graded the presentations. And it went in with the social studies grade, but it had been entirely our bailiwick. Now, spoiler alert, I used to be an English teacher and I do not miss grading, but I will take it back for teaching presentation skills, for teaching to sort of the importance of how you can represent data visually. Yesterday, Michelle Ludala introduced me to the term graphicacy, meaning graphical literacy, what you get from infographics. She said, when you see a subway map, you know what it is. You know that the straight lines aren't actually straight in real life, and you know where the dots are, the stops. Well, did someone tell you that? Probably at some point. But if we're teaching kids the importance of representing their ideas graphically, that's a great skill. And if we've developed the rubric, we're teaching the skills and we're assessing it, the kids are getting it, and the teacher isn't losing the time. So I try to, as much as possible, approach our work as, where can I meet your needs? Whether it's, let me show you where to get these resources, this database. Let me take this load off of you for doing this. Let me teach the Google Slides skills, the Google Apps for Education skills, your Google Suite skills in my class or on my time.
Right, where can I share the load?
Right, that makes you value added again. And when the teacher then goes back to the department, Tom Charltre is my colleague at Pond Cove, our elementary school, and he and I talk about teachers teaching teachers tech. I do not try to speak to a large group. I will speak to a department, small group. I target the great teachers that are highly respected, not necessarily, in fact, not the ones that are tech savvy, because they will often alienate their colleagues because they're so good at it. I will choose someone and I'll say, you, social studies teacher that everyone loves and has taught AP government since government was invented, here is an amazing database for you. And he has become my best advocate in his department. A math teacher that didn't understand the power of flipped learning, I showed her YouTube videos, I mentioned this earlier, about knitting, because she's a knitter. She's like, holy crow, I can learn this skill of knit 1, purl 2 on YouTube, and now I can teach my kids math. I showed her Khan Academy, and she is now my best advocate. You would think that I'm walking on water for what I'm doing, but I just showed her an existing tool and said, when you go to conferences, go confidently because you're still in your classroom, flipped learning, teaching those kids. And she's the one who has this little character named Cosine, and Cosine flies in and is like, hey, Mrs. Smith, how's this going? Names are changed to protect the innocent.
So, gentlemen, let's take it back full circle.
Let's.
We're looking at what time it is as far as we've been on air with you for almost an hour. We've talked about lots of different topics. So let's have, as Jonathan does in his one-to-one tech check, let's have one last word about ISTE.
I think everybody should have an opportunity to come to events like this, because you get to be around people like this and you get great ideas. And if you can't be here, we hope that you're following the hashtag #NotAtISTE. Please follow hashtag ISTE17 and hashtag can't shush this.
ISTE 2017 too, because I feel like we can't actually decide which one is the true conference tag, and so we have people sharing on both.
Yep.
And so, like, I have my tweet deck set up with the 17, with the 2017, plus our ISTE Lib, and so that sharing is continually happening. A lot of us are processing our thoughts as people are speaking. We're tweeting it, and so that for me is a record. I always go back and refer to my own tweets,
right?
Not because they're so fantastic, but because those are things that I want to remember, and so that helps me process it. So.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I'm Squirrel, ADD boy. There's a man in an orange suit that is so bright, I literally can't look at him. Anywho, that is something else. I have learned not to wear orange to the conference. No, I have learned really about the power of a single tool, no matter what it is, to be a total game changer. And you mentioned Makey Makey. For me, it was Sphero and Ali in my own experience. But it isn't the device itself, it's what the device allows you opportunities to do. So I'm seeing all these new tools, but thinking about them not as the tool themselves, but as the learning that comes out of them. And I mean, the expo makes me bananas. The thousands and thousands of people, roiling and boiling. But if you find that one station and that one tool, Makey Makey is a fantastic one. Little Bits was introduced to me last year at the Makerspace, and that one has been so powerful for me as an opportunity that it affords for learning.
Well, thank you so much.
No, I'm good.
All right.
Well, we're about out of time.
All right. I was going to say thank you so much for joining us. Thank you guys for inviting me
so
to be a part of this. And we hope that if you're here, you have a great conference experience. If not, have a great time following it on social media.
Yeah. And all three of us on Twitter, main school tag.
At Stony1227.
At Sherry and Gick.
Great. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Take care.
See ya. Nicely done.